Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. My name is DB333, and welcome back to our turn for the New Order Last Days of Europe as Magadan. Now, in last video, we met up with some people, with Tsar, not the president directly, but some friends of the president, Congress people, all that, and the Vost, to try to secure our position, which we've more or less done. We're doing a lot better. And we might actually be able to get working on a Siberian army coming up, and then we'll be able to go ahead and reunite the party. I'm sure nothing bad will happen when that, comes into being. So yeah. Rebel checked his watch. 20 seconds to 10 p.m. Siberian time. He had his radio laid out in front of him, ready to transmit. Before the communication could proceed, however, he ordered all of his men out of the room, preferring to be alone. While the matter was not confidential, he wanted to keep everything private. Tonight was a special night, a time to talk to an old friend. So long as she also held to her schedule, that is. 10 seconds out, Rebel rubbed his hands against his temples. This Siberian business was hard, and Mikulski was proving himself to be no pushover. Rebel smirked. The damned bastard would have his due. Fingers on the dial, 2 seconds out. When it reached 10 o'clock, his right hand snapped, finding the frequency that she used, locking onto it without difficulty. He reached out from the microphone and spoke at it. White Mouse, are you there?
You're late. Maybe age has slowed you down a little bit after all.
She laughed. Rebel smiled. On the other side was the White Mouse, one of the Brits who had the backbone to fight in a war and be good at it. A comrade during all those times where the Americans lost for Georgia Liberty before falling down a set of stairs to disgrace. Good to see you, wizard. He saw her firm, proud smile beyond the radio waves. Likewise, Mouse, Rebel said, kicking back in his seat, the microphone standing precariously on his chest. How is Kamchatka? Is it a shithole too? He felt her frowning at him. Language wizard. But yes, there's not much to do around here. Still looking up to Uncle Sam? You know it. I know you've gone Indian and all, but the OS... No. The CIA has a proposition for you. Forget it. Make no mistake, he liked Nixon. Only a good American could bring America back together, and not those cowardly liberals who talk of peace, land, and bread. Fucking communists. He just couldn't let go. Listen, I still remember the last time I worked for his no-good best. We have also taken your concerns to mind. She spelled out her plans for him. His eyes widened. Hell of a plan. You mad bastards. And the shadows grow. We get more army experience, at least. I want to take a look at the generals we have real quick. We have Nancy Wake. I forget if this guy's a new one or not. We have John Peters. This general's a mercenary, a soldier of fortune who fears no god and has faith in no man. He only marches beneath a flag for as long as his contract obligates him, and his only rallying cry is that of profit. We have this Ikeda guy, Jerry Patrick Hemming, Jerry Magok, and the Field Marshal Mitchell Rebel III. Not a bad haul. The question is, will we be able to keep any of these guys? And the answer is probably not. But we'll get to that why in a second. And now let's get back to securing our position. So far, so good. Two events at once. Okay. Let's do this once it's lopped up first. Nikita strode into the town of Magadan, confidence invested in every step of his gait. His rifle, which he had slung behind his back, provided a comfortable weight, an anchor that kept his livelihood going. In his arms he carried the hide of a moose, a worthy prey whose coat would suit a gentleman if harbin snugly. Today, perhaps Nikita could earn a bit more than he needed to survive for another week. Maybe a pack of cigarettes, or even a can of powdered coffee. In his head he toyed with the image of a Vols wearing something made from the lovely hide of this moose. As usual, the RFP officers and thugs guarded every sentence of the city, their brown uniforms contrasting with the pale building of the town. However, Nikita noticed that the RFP now had new companions among their ranks, sharply dressed men and women, armed to the teeth and speaking thousands of languages. Congealing into a Tower of Babel, manifested in the outskirts of Russia. It was quite a sight, with mercenaries keeping to themselves and the Russians eternally suspicious of what was going on. The officials cleared him to enter the town, provided that he left his rifle in their checkpoint. He sold the hide for some good cash. Money he could use to buy bullets, provisions, food, and medical supplies asked him for another week. There was something new to town, however. American products. American coffee, cigarettes, and even radio were available, and quite common even. They were cheaper than native Magadan goods, although they were often sold out by the end of the day. Nikita bought a pack of cigarettes and a can of powdered coffee. Smiling at his news gains, he strolled to the edge of town, returning to his home in the northern reaches of Siberia. Another good day's catch. So, the Siberian hunters sat around the table. On it was a radio, an American brand powered by batteries instead of regular electricity. They had bought this from an admittedly sketchy merchant selling American goods in the port of Magadan. Still, the surface of the thing was shining with polish, a particularly American brand of burnishing that made cheap things look luxurious. They turned the dial to Magadan Free Radio, whose frequency they had scribbled onto a piece of paper earlier. The mix was better this time. As usually, they played Russian patriotic songs, with the Siberian hunters singing and humming along to the melody, despite having no idea what the lyrics were. Instead of cutting entirely, the radio quieted as the talk show began. Welcome to Magadan Free Radio. Of course, voice, with some lip smacking, but not as much as before. Your only source of news in the Far East. I'm here with my co-host, Vasily. Hello. Tonight is another cold Siberian night, but rest assured the MFR will go nowhere. What is our subject tonight, Sergey? Well, I hold in my hand a genuinely genius American invention, Mr. Vasily. A deodorant, truly magnificent. Sergey uncapped the deodorant, making sure to be as audible as possible. Smell that, Mr. Vasily? Mm-hmm. And what does it do, Sergey? It is just the thing. It blocks body odor. Sergey stopped, as if applying it over his skin. This deodorant, imported from America, should fit all you Siberian savages out there in the woods. The room is silent. Mr. Vasily, why are you staring at me like that? Looks like we still need to work on the presentation a bit, but we got some stability. And we got the Siberian army once and for all. The agreements that we have secured with foreign powers, mercenaries, and czars have brought us valuable time and given us room to breathe. Now the party can turn its eyes towards the chief means of its holy task, the army. While the party is no pacifistic organization, its militant wing so far only consists of trainees and militia drawn up from the streets and outskirts of Magadan, given guns that are either crude or non-functional. If the push west is to happen, we need to reform them into a proper professional army. We have several opinions for how we can approach this. The first is to adhere to a doctrine suited for a local force. After all, Russians know how to best fight on Russian soil. The second is request American advisors who experience in the proxy wars of the world could win Russia as well. The last of these options is of adopting rebel techniques and assembling our forces. His expertise will not disappoint us. Whatever we could choose, the grand task continues. Well, let's get going. First, let's scavenge for loot. Peace in the Middle East. I'll believe it when I see it. What's jolly old England up to? Seems like they're up to a shaky compromise. But they're managing somehow. The Welsh have had their elections. Because, that's actually interesting, I'm sure, to someone. In the months since Metkovsky's scathing inspection of the Magadan Garrison, things seem to go from bad to, well, surprisingly good. Metkovsky's generals and administration had taken upon themselves to figure out some way to improve the true RFP's fighting ability. The answer was simple, mused one senior officer. When we realized we couldn't use conscripts, we brought soldiers from abroad instead. Indeed, mercenaries and military advisors, state-sponsored or otherwise, have been slowly but surely streaming into the frozen port of Magadan to not only pad Metkovsky's army and bring them, kicking and screaming, into the world of professionalism. The fat ones were now skinny, the malnourished ones healthy. All of them had a semblance of fighting spirit for the first time ever, and the guns, while still archaic, were at least cleaned and maintained properly. Training, as bare bones as it was, actually began to prepare the conscripts and the mercenary counterparts for the realities of modern warfare in the frigid forests and marshes of Siberia. All of this, of course, was attacked on to a very long and expensive bill that Mikulski had to pass on off to his administration. He was confident that there were or that there would be something for them to pay the mercenaries with. After Mikulski's second inspection of the troops, which, like the first, was kept as a surprise, he once again called a meeting with his general staff. As they filed in, worried that the new inspection was not enough of an improvement from the original, many nervously fiddled with pens or reports, while others looked anywhere but where Mikulski stood. As they all assembled, the voice spoke. After the second inspection, I want to say good job to all of you. Many were surprised. I know the task I assigned to you was not an easy one, and while we're far from perfect, I'm pleased with the progress that we're making. The path to seek out mercenaries and foreign support was not one that I would have expected, but it's clearly working. And I will meet with some top advisors on how to increase the numbers and effectiveness of these foreigners. And then, finally, the rare thank you. Dismissed. Now we're getting somewhere. Hell yeah. How's our professionalism? It's going up very, very slightly. Well, let's get working on a local force. I think that's probably the best option from what I've gathered. The motorized infantry unit is not too bad, but it's nothing compared, I've realized, to any of this, so we'll do it. Let's get a local force. A long time ago, during the Civil War and the Reviled Revolution, Mikulski was once an officer or cadet in the White Army before the news of defeat drove him south to Manchuria. Most of our current military staff are from similar background. White Army officers driven out of the motherland, seeking shelter in a foreign country while planning for their return in the meanwhile. They are adamant that only Russian tactics and strategy can win in Russian soil, a view Mikulski personally shares but has yet to endorse. If we choose to adopt this path, we will not request any more American support outside of war material, and we will rebuff Rebel, who is only looking out for his mercenaries. Russians know Russia best, after all, and the tactics of Russians, both red and white, shall unite to lift the motherland from her knees. Our duty is heavy and divine, a cross that only Russians can bear, after all. Alright, can I train up these guys? I can. We're gonna need a bit more manpower, but we'll manage. Put a guy right there. And we're getting some manpower right about now. And so that'll replenish that guy, and we'll be good to keep training him. From here, let's get some White Army tactics. In the almost forgotten past, faintly remembered even by Mikulski himself, Russia was divided into two factions, the Whites and the Reds. The Whites fought for the preservation of a divinely ordained order of Russia, while the Reds fought for the establishment of a workers' utopia. The Whites found themselves defeated by the Reds. Their tactics and strategy allowed them to continue fighting longer than they otherwise could have. Adopting their doctrines, particularly as it pertains to the Far East, is an excellent idea. Our officers will study the underpinnings and principles of the old White Army, applying them to training our own armed forces. Though reminiscent of tactics used in the First World War, soon the conditions and harshness of Siberia will hammer a coherent doctrine out of it. The men of the old order shall look upon us from the heavens. We shall not disappoint them today, nor any time soon. There we go. We've scavenged for more loot. Now we're gonna go ahead and our academic base could use improvement. So let's get some new schools. Let's do it. Yeah, this is coming along just fine. We'll get some nice, a fair bit more recruitable population. Maybe not that much, but it'll be nice. Some out of supplies, some reinforcement, some max planning, and some organization. All excellent pickups. Now let's get the legacy of a unit, which is going to outright just upgrade one of our societal developments. The Reds are our enemies, there's no question about that. The military doctrine, however, is a subject of great interest to our officers. It is they who won over the Whites in the Civil War. It was they who held the Germans at bay, even as they pushed the AA line. The stories from the West are correct. It was they who drove back the Germans back, reclaiming much of the sacred soil of motherland. Endorsing their ideals and studying their tactics are two different things, a difference our officers are keen to keep in mind. Our officers we'll scour the records of the town Magadan and piece together a coherent doctrine from whatever we can salvage. The Reds' combination of force, concentration, and industrialization might serve us well from the Far East to the western ends of Russia. Perhaps, given time, we can finish the job the Reds have failed to accomplish. But Germans shall not dally on Russian soil for long. There we go. Collapse of German Madagascar. Madagascar in general just kind of falling apart. Not too bad. Improve American relations. Let's train our troops, get a little bit more manpower. And do you want to invest in some infrastructure? I kind of do, honestly. We want Magadan to be the main city of Russia, after all. We want it to be a capital to hold up to the likes of, I don't know, Moscow, Sverdlovsk, all of Vyatka, any, maybe not Moscow, but any of the rural warlord capitals. We want it something to compete with it. So, let's go to places any to do it. So, let's get the Siberian School. We'll get an elite unit of Siberian Rangers. Very nice. After an intense study of military doctrines and principles of the Whites and the Reds, the army of the party in Magadan has become a professional armed force, combining them into a form that is truly Russian, while retaining its specialized nature for Siberia. Without relying on the help of the outsiders, Markovsky and his party have crafted a military force capable of fighting in the cold and bitterness of Siberian weather. The splitters in Chita and Amur, along with Reds in Buryatia and Irkutsk, will learn to fear us now. It's now time to take this army against them. The party shall arm them and our officers' corps shall staff them. We now control the most dangerous force in the Far East, and no one can stop us. Centuries from now, men and women shall sing of the great heroes of Far Eastern territories, the soldiers who served and studied in Siberian school, whose steady march freed Russia and took her to the world stage. Brilliant. And there goes Japan. The men stood by the sill, calmly, and waited their turn to jump. A Tokyo Exchange Secretary. Well, tough break, Japan. Fall Vigoda. What are they at? They're at widespread cronyism. We're now also at widespread cronyism, which is very, very nice. We just jumped a level. And we're still keeping our... We still have our army professionals, which granted is not that much, but still. Today's the 5th day of Oleg's survival training. The sky was dark and the woods stretched in what seemed like infinity. In front of him were the remnants of a campfire, results from the hunt last night. 2 foxes and a rabbit. Waking up to greet the new day, he lifted his sidearm and looked over it, balancing it in the sand as he did so. Apart from some dirt stains, it was clean. He pressed the magazine release and then pulled the slide back. A cartridge fell into the air with a faint ping. All the bullets were there. So far, Oleg did not have to use his gun on anything. No bear, no leopard even came close to him, although he did see them in the wild. The foxes, rabbits, and other assorted animals he hunted were the result of his traps. Using the gun to eat them on them would ruin their flavor and make them possibly unsafe to eat. To survive, Oleg learned, one must be ready to not only exercise force, but also restraint. He picked up the stray bullet and shoved it back in the magazine. Time for his daily ritual. Setting himself down, Oleg began taking apart his gun. Setting the parts down on dried rabbit fur, he took out his canteen and started cleaning the parts delicately. After each piece was free of grime and dust, he rubbed them on the fur, making sure they were dry. With icy fingers, he assembled the gun. To see if anything was wrong, he slid the magazine back and cocked for action. A snap. Oleg smiled. Today was a good day, too. Siberian Rangers would come back for him. Any day now. A worthy recruit. Army experience plus 10. Where's the new division? Beautiful. Siberian Rangers. I think we're ready, boys. The reforms of the Siberian army is complete. We are now ready to confront our old adversary, Rodzevsky, currently residing in Amur. Our army is ready to mend the old split of the RFP at long last. Some of the most seasoned veterans have been dreaming of this day ever since Markovsky's captured Magadan. The party shall be one again after all these years. Nikolsky and his officers will order all personnel to stand by and prepare for the operation against Timur, effective immediately. Our victory is assured so long as everything that we have planned goes our way. The only wild card on the table is Rebel, the mercenary that von Siatsky brought with him. Hopefully we have kept him on a tight enough leash that he does not do anything that would interfere with our plans, but some among our ranks note his rising power and doubt that our current measures are enough. Nevertheless, the operation must go forward. I'm sure nothing bad will happen at all. So, Vasily, tonight we have something new to showcase to the audience. Our poor listeners cannot see into this office, but let me describe it to you, loyal followers of the Vols, who just tuned in tonight. Ah, shit. Sorry, dropped it. This is an American-made M1911, courtesy of our friends in the CIA. Please, don't wave that around, Sergey. That gun is loaded. Apologies, dear audience. It appears my friend Sergey is a bit of an idiot. Oh, don't be so negative, Vasily. This weapon has a safety. Hear that? The pull of a trigger. Nothing happened. It's because the safety is preventing the firing mechanism from engaging. Fancy and clever people, these Americans. And what does this weapon have that the Russians ones don't? Well, you see, Vasily. This gun has the power of a rifle condensed into a compact and easily carried package, making even the least armor of our soldiers dangerous. Let me pick that up again and show you how it's done. Please don't wave at a... What the fuck did you do? Just another day in the office of a MFR. Good times. What do we got here? MEO? Yep, MEO. I recognized it. Transmission 01, Ancient Mason, currently stationed in Magadan. Subject on the training equipment of the Metkovsky's forces. A review. Before we came to the town of Magadan, acting at the behest of the Congress as well as DOD, in good favor to the leader of the RFB, Metkovsky, most of the armed forces, considered of the fascist militias with little to no experience in actual warfare. Their equipment was in a similarly poor state, with most soldiers equipped with creaking, almost non-functional rifles, like the old Arasaka models, and most of the Nagants dating back to the days of the Great War. A good fit for an army of wax models in a museum, perhaps, but not enough for a host with the intent to fight, as Vovol's Russian leader humbly put it, a total crusade to save Russia. We commenced training as soon as we pinned down the RP situation. That is where we encountered another problem. The nepotism ingrained with the officer corps of the RFP was so prevalent that men who could barely hold the weight of a rifle bore such high ranks as lieutenant, captain, or even major. Pressed on the issue, Vovol's agreed to fire these people immediately, much to his credit. He also approved the building of several officer schools to whip up the higher ranks of his army into shape. The reports we have received from the front lines indicate good results. The border clashes against their neighbors have indicated a good increase in performance, regardless of victory and defeat. We will continue to monitor the situation and issue reports whenever possible. Mason out. Spectacular growth. Beautiful. We're ready at last. Nothing bad's gonna happen, I'm sure. From the outset, Rebel's goons were different from the regulars of the RFP militias. In Magadan, they walked around town, their expensive gear strapped to their bodies, flirting with the girls and ladies that they saw along the way. They seemed not to have a care for Russia. It was just another playground for them, a vacation, a holiday in a desolate land where they got to shoot the natives. Smith, no given last name in particular, came from South Africa, his hand itching for the trigger of the gun, his ears for the thrill of gunfire, his head and brain for the conduct and raw barbarity of combat. Rebel wasn't lying when he said that his gear was going to be good. His M16 strapped to his back was the meanest piece of lead splitter this side of Russia. The RFP militias did not have them, only given old US M1 Garands instead, for they were not Smith. The fields, savannas, plains, and jungles of Africa made themselves known through his copper, sunburnt skin. He had all the reason in the world to be cocky. When his folks back home asked him why he'd gone into business, to find a lady, came the answer. All who truly understood Smith knew that he wasn't in it for love, but for the thrill of war and money. He could see the Russians eyeing his gear with envy in his eyes. He smirked at them and winked. Every time he smoked, they would marvel at his tidy, clean, well-rolled cigarettes. Once in a while, he even offered them one. Warfare was a trade, and the business was good. Leaning back against a wall in a random part of a podunk town, he took one of his fabulous cigarettes out and lit one. From a backwater and deserted place, Magadan was pretty good. Not on the level of Bloemfontein, but pleasant enough. However, his heart was never there. Out west, closer to the lines of his Tsars and Rodzevsky's loyalists, beneath the blazing gunfire and artillery bombardments, was where he belonged. With a puff of smoke, he threw the cigarette down and stepped on it. It was time for action. Smith, reporting in. Ready at last. Mr. Vonziatsky, are you there? Mr. Vonziatsky, the Voz is waiting for you. It's no use, Dmitri, Ivan said, sighing and catching his breath. I've been in the store for hours, and I haven't got any answers yet. Time to try something else, Dmitri thought. Kneeling, he stared at the keyhole of a doorknob. He could do this. Taking out a lockpick from his pocket, Dmitri gingerly inserted it, working as to leave the machinations inside undisturbed and unharmed. The door had to open somehow, and jamming the keyhole would only make it harder for everyone. Might even require an axe, he chuckled. Ivan was about to protest several times, in fact. They could have just asked for a spare key, but Dmitri wouldn't hear it. The door clicked. Dmitri stood, containing his jump at the very last moment. See? He said to Ivan, who gave a dry smile in response. Dmitri turned the knob, but the door wouldn't budge. Bolted from the inside. God damn it! He kicked the door in a fit of rage. Ivan topped his shoulder, gesturing for him to move. Brandishing an axe, he swung it several times at the direction of the door, as bits and pieces of wood fly in every direction. What's up?
What are you doing?
I'm recording.
Are you kicking something?
I'm slamming stuff. I'm breaking the door down. I gotta save a fascist. She doesn't understand what we gotta do. The very last moment, when Ivan was about to give up, the door gave way. Mr. Vonziatsky, are you not well? Ivan stopped mid-sentence. Laying on the floor and clutching his chest was Vonziatsky, his eyes glassy, his face pale. He was dead. Sometime in the evening, the phone in Matkovsky's office rang. We defer our payment to you, friend Matkovsky. Uh-oh. Ivan and Boris did not like their new assignment. Transferred from the political wing of the RFP to the army right before the eve of the operation, they were, as their instructor put it, dead weight. An officer handed them their bolt-action rifles and told them to stick with the rear guard, where the chance of survival was the highest. There was no danger here. The Siberian woods were quiet, the wind whistling beneath the trees and the air as cold as ever. You think the Voz will let us back? Boris asked Ivan, who was squatting beside him, watching the surroundings while smoking a flimsy cigarette. The only reply he got was a listless shake of the head and a hush. Ivan knew his stuff, or at least showed that he wasn't in over his head. The hand that gripped the cig shook. It could be the air, it could be genuine anxiety, and the terror in the face of war. A figure passed ahead in the dirt trails they were watching. A mercenary. It was apparent from the gear they carried. Proper camouflage, assault rifle, a belt chock full of grenades, as well as other miscellaneous tools of warfare, and most importantly, the attitude. The man walked forward without any concern or worry, his footsteps lighter than the bravest man of the RFP. However, reason to be here. The front lines were where he belonged, not here. Halt! Boris said, unslinging his rifle and pointing to the mercenary. He did likewise. Ivan followed suit. Turn back. The front lines are over there. The mercenary said nothing and shot at Boris. It hit, and Boris was thrown off his feet. Ivan fired back, nailing the mercenary in the shoulder. All over the lines, incidents like these flared up, and the operation was called off in a panic. Rebel's coup had begun. Hindsight is 2020. Well, the mercenary services are no longer required. Increase in the popularity of fascism. Rebel has retired, it seems. And Matkovsky is secured. We're not doing the man who stole the Volst, although that would be funny. Just the title of that is hilarious. I love it. But alas, we're secured. Matkovsky is safe. The attempt on his life, carried out by our mercenary acquaintances, Rebel, over payment disputes, has been spoiled by the diligence of the troops serving the party. The future leader of Russia is evacuating, along with his closest and most trusted associates, back to Magadan. Rodzevsky is lucky. Had the betrayal not occurred, we would have crushed him then and there. However, another opportunity to crush him once and for all will come along soon enough. Now Matkovsky and the party must make must turn their attention to the matter of internal security. The main bulk of the mercenary army has fled the fields, breaking down into squads of individual soldiers as they stagger in the wastes of Siberia, while others have surrendered. The militant wing of the party shall hunt down the scattered units of mercenaries, giving them a choice: serve under Makovsky or die. We will leave them to make a final decision. Either way, Makovsky has triumphed. War planning, not too necessary. Our war support is fine right now. Actually, it's pretty damn good. Oh, we can scavenge for loot. Loot. There we go. We're getting lessons from Ken Pai Tai, because, yeah, that's who you want to learn from. Ivan carried Boris on his back. He wasn't a doctor, and he didn't know whether the gunshot broke a bone, shattered a vein, or hit a vital organ. Boris was probably safe, and the mercenary tagged him in his shoulders. So far, using vodka, scraps of clothing, and the bandages he found on the merc's body, Ivan had managed to staunch the bleeding, the blood gathering in dark red clots beneath the bandage's white veneer. Boris moaned every time they went up and down the crossing of the rough Siberian terrain, but his ragged breathing and delirious groans meant one thing was clear. He was alive. All the way back from the lines back to the camp, Ivan screamed until his throat was sore. Medic! Medic! Yet the grounds were silent, and the trees and bushes did not accept nor condemn his call for help. Boris was growing heavy by the minute, his weight settling into Ivan's shoulders like a cross. His breath became shorter and shorter as the woods refused to part ways and yielded to the camp. Not far now, Ivan thought, for every step he took. Not far. Every rock and fallen branch and mound of soil endeared themselves to his eyes and feet. As he slowed down, he was close to fainting. He took his knife out and tried to prick his thumb lightly. His touch was less than gentle, and in his panic he slashed his hand. The wound was not deep, just enough to keep him awake. He bandaged his hands, taking a slower and measured pace. In half an hour, he reached the camp, finding it empty and deserted. Night had descended, the medical staff had fled, along with most of the troops. Had he been faster, had he been quicker, he could have saved Boris. He laid his friend down on the ground and held his hand as Boris' breath faded, fainter and fainter. He tried. He really did. Fate had not given leave for Boris to survive. Luck did, however. A truck horn sounded, and the headlights was Ivan, holding his friend's hand and his tears at bay. He could not believe it. Gathering his will, he said in a shaken, torn voice, "Friend or foe? Russian or mercenary?" "Friend! Russian! You're safe now. The Voz awaits in Magadan. Get in the truck." And Makovsky survives. We give the national spirit of fascist renewal, more attack, more division recovery rate, and more war support. The war support is huge. Oh my god. That is great. Soon we'll gain get the final countdown, which gives us another 10 war support. And then D-Day. Yeah, D-Day. The mercenaries under Werbel tried to assassinate Makovsky. They failed. However, their actions have interrupted the most crucial operations of the party. The attack in the war and the mending the rift of the old RFP. Still, with the army assembled and taught how to fight, as well as equipped to fight the war to come, we have not lost much progress in our preparations. A little shaken by the assassination attempt, we will give the army some breathing spaces to compose themselves. The soldiers shall return to their barracks for a brief period. All the vehicles gained from American supply will not go to the operation unfueled and unready. Everyone from the officer to the private shall inspect their equipment. The High Command shall review their plans and judge it if further preparations would be necessary. Our course is clear, and we march to it with no doubt in our hearts. We will defeat Rodzevsky once and for all. There we go. He doesn't have much time left. The Far East finest. Looks like old Mikhail isn't going to be doing too much soon either. Get some more construction stuff. I think we'll go ahead and do stop back to engineering. We'll do horizontal industrial organization. Those more factories in state. What else do we want? Got the final countdown done. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Days come, boys. The army, with their equipment polished and accounted for, is ready to take on Rodzevsky. The artillery guns are pointed in the direction of the Magadan border, arranged to fire the first shots that will ignite the showdown between two old companions. With but a command from Makovsky, the operation will be underway. We expect the conflict to be short, but with the victor determined after a few weeks. The moment for words is over. Now might alone will decide which wing of the party shall triumph. In a few days, Makovsky shall personally sign the order to advance, and hand the reins of conducting the war to his subordinates. Our troops shall break the uneasy and informal border between us and Rodzevsky. Artillery shells shall precede them. As they shatter the pathetic armed militia, Rodzevsky dares to call an army. The war will begin, and Makovsky shall succeed. After that, the rest of Russia awaits. Beautiful. Oh, I was about to check on this guy. He's ready to go. Altai versus Tomsk. Tomsk has went with the Bastillards. Bastillards? I don't know how to pronounce that, actually. They went with Karms. Which, honestly, I'm starting to appreciate the, I think I said, I don't know, I said this in one of these videos. I forget which one, though. it might have been one that didn't make the cut. I am appreciating the modernists a lot less and the other factions a lot more. Maybe not the humanists. I always had a bit of appreciation for them, but the rest, you get the idea. Let's slow down the speed and get moving. You stay there, actually. I think you're fine. Or you can just not listen to me. I guess that's fine. No, I think I know what's best. I have an idea, buddy. The game will let me flex my, or be able to actually use my strategic mind, which is not an oxymoron. It actually can be true sometimes. You stay there. Yeah, there you go. This guy's starting to pick up what I'm getting now. He's picking up what I'm laying down. We're pushing him back there. Okay, so you stop your push into Zaya. Or you can just not listen to me. It's not gonna matter too much in the end. This guy's gonna wait. This guy's actually wasting his org and his supply. Well, he attacks into there. That actually isn't the worst for us. Can I get you to move in there? Not quite. Actually, we'll move in there because the AI likes to fuck around the front lines. We'll encircle this guy. There we go. We'll take their capital soon enough. We're about to move into Zaya. There we are. Zaya will be captured. Is that going to be enough to take him more out? No. Those Nazi LARP... Oh, they're actual Nazis. The LARPers are the Aryan Brotherhood. The actual Nazis are a Moor. That's how you gotta distinguish it. Get another encirclement. Oh damn, they beat Tomsk. God damn. Oh, they got Takagi. That's not bad. Now we'll move you back to the capital. This guy's encircled. He doesn't have much left in his tank. You'll move there soon enough. Strangely enough, we only have winning American support. What can we do anything to improve that? We can buy guns real quick. This isn't a bad idea, so let's get them. And let these guys attack in. I don't know why you would do that. In fact, you could just do that, which is a much better usage every time. They've fallen back to Rodzevsk. Where we will proceed to push forward. Beautiful. We've taken Magdagachi? That sounds like a fucking Pokemon. Is that a real thing? Is that an actual town? And we'll push you into Rodzevsky. And there we go. Which one is that? Is that the... Oh, those are the actual Democrats. The actual Democratic faction. Okay. I don't pay attention to that enough to know if that's a normal thing or not, but it's interesting. And their front line has been destroyed for whatever dumb reason. So... Let's do Charismatic for Pavlov. There we go. Ignited by a tragedy, the fascist Russia perish in a farce. Let's go ahead and integrate Amor, get some cores on 3 pretty good provinces. Well, 1 pretty good province, and then 2... This one's okay, actually. This one's but we get a dockyard, actually. That's not too bad. It's time for reunion. Mikulski has triumphed over Rodzevsky, and our army has settled their dispute. There will be no more talk of a splintered party, with one wing resting in Amor and the other in Magadan. However, the party must attend to one crucial matter. What shall do to the remnants of Rodzevsky's followers? After all, although they are maybe misguided, these men once followed the same ideals as Mikulski. In leaving our band, they have proved to be determined to return to and restore the motherland. Mikulski shall be lenient with them. He shall coat his hand in velvet, while he hands pardons and punishments from his high seat in Magadan. Those who prove themselves to be worthy of mercy, he shall spare, and let them redeem themselves on the field. Those rabid devotees of Rodzevsky, he shall exile to the wilderness of Siberia, or put them to death for crimes committed during Rodzevsky's reign. When the dust settles, the legacy of Harbin shall be ours, and ours alone. There we go. Oh, Cheetah's just fighting against us. How convenient. Saves us from doing it to them, I guess. Now let's keep the past alive. The Russian Fascist Party has won. Men who were enemies for decades now embrace one another in the spirit of brotherhood that connects one Russian to another. Hands that turned to guns, knives, and rifles in the old days now clasp one another in unity and friendship, bearing no ill will towards one another. The days of a split are behind us, as all members of the party agreed to join Mikulski in his holy crusade. The liberation of Russia from ruin and suffering. However, in the Far East, there are still enemies that lurk in the background. The Reds in Irkutsk and Buryatia have settled their schisms and are preparing to retake their former territories. Further east, Tsars still hold Cheetah, with the unwilling monarch kept in his gilded cage. Meanwhile, rumors have spread to our lands, telling of father from northern parts of Siberia. They shall fall, for the RFP marches now marches, not as 2, but 1. Alright, the father's gonna pop up soon enough. Rodzevsky stepped out into the harsh morning air, dressed in rags. 2 RFP guards trailed him, rifles trained on his heart and head. Should he try to make a run for it? They shouldn't have bothered. On his face, the fire that had burned bright during the darkest moments of the RFP in Harbin was not but cold embers. His hands and legs chained, he hobbled forward, dragging his feet and maintaining precarious balance and momentum. At their front was a makeshift gallows, constructed with the sole intent of executing the former chief leader of the RFP, the Bandit King of Amor, as he was now known. Now walked like the poorest beggar in the Far East, towards his impending death. 3 men patrolled the site on Mikulski's orders, making sure the execution was as private as possible. For all he had done, Rodzevsky was still a former member of the RFP, a party that takes care of its own. Stop right there, the guard said, right beneath the stairs to his doom. I have something to ask. Rodzevsky suppressed the word giggle. Why did I almost fuck up that word? To giggle at the man. What can a dying man say in the face of his fate? He nodded. What did Vivals say to you last night? All eyes were now on Rodzevsky, every ear tuned to hear what he had to say. Nothing much. Can we get this over already? He intended to carry what Mikulski said to his grave. The guards brought him the rope, then placed it around his neck. They made him stand on a stool before aiming their rifles at him again, prepared for a last desperate escape attempt. There was no need. In a few moments, a guard kicked the stool from beneath him. And so dies the madman. Sorry, bitch. Tough luck. Industrial investments. Sounds good to me. And I think we're going to have to cut it here, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for watching. However, if you like this video, leave a like. If not, feel free to dislike. Want to see more of this content feature, hit the sub button for more uploads every weekday, as well as every Saturday. If you have any comments, feedback, concerns, and sort, leave them in the comment section below. I read the comments again. Appreciate any all feedback you might have for me. If you want to chat, play games, and sort, check out my Discord down link below. If you want to send bucks my way every month, check out my Patreon. If you want to see me do a sort of life, I have a Twitch, all of which are down in the description box below. That's it for now, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for watching. My name has been DB333. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.